Dark with Rob and Andrew, and our guest tonight is going to be Ray Poetry, and Heather Robinson might also be joining us, so we look forward to that. We are available tonight on pilled.net. Long time no see to all the patriots on pilled.net. The site looks great. We are also on Facebook, the After Dark Facebook page. Make sure you guys are subscribed to that. And also, of course, we are on the MAGA Media YouTube page. So please check us out and subscribe to all of those accounts because you never know when we'll be popping up on here for live updates. You know what, Rob? Free speech isn't always a pretty thing. We have a lot of bad rhetoric in this country. Sometimes I don't like what people have to say. Sometimes free speech can lead to racism and some other horrible things. But I think that's what makes this country great is that people are allowed to say whatever they want to say. They can say whatever is in their mind. But we are seeing less and less of that in this country. Like us all being banned from social media. Why did we get banned from Twitter? Was it because we had open conversation on whether or not the election was a fraud? Was it because we questioned if the China virus was created in a lab in Wuhan, which we are now seeing is absolutely the case? Is it because we did not ignore Hunter Biden and his laptop? Well, we don't know, Rob, because we were silenced along with Ray Poetry for no reason other than that we supported President Trump and that we discussed all these things openly and freely, just like you should be able to do here in America, like the way that I want it to be. How about you, Rob?
No, I agree with you. I don't know why we were silenced other than the fact that we were speaking truth to power. And a lot of times, unfortunately, when you're speaking truth to power, a lot of people don't feel comfortable with it. They don't like it. They want to silence your voice and silence what you have to say. Like you said, I was kicked off Twitter. You were kicked off, as well as Ray Poetry. And it begs a question. You go back and you look at, because initially when it happens, you're always wondering, what did I do wrong? Did I say the wrong thing? Was I bullying someone? Was I being intimidating? Was I, using vulgarity? And none of that took place. And what you said at the opening of the segment that I think is really powerful, and that is that we have free speech. We might not like it, but there's free speech. And unfortunately, and this pains me to say, but I will fight to the death to protect your free speech that I don't agree with. That being said, some people will abuse free speech and they will turn it into hate speech. And that's not permitted. You just can't go out just willy-nilly saying things knowing that it's harmful and that it is hurtful. And someone will say, oh, but that's free speech. No, you've crossed the line. And it is a thin line. But as intelligent people, as Americans, as human beings, we know what we're saying. We know the words that we're saying when those words hurt. And then trying to get away with them and pretend as if though it's free speech is wrong. Consequently, the same thing takes place with big tech, with them trying to silence free speech, silencing President Trump from social media. And I just find it hilarious how Facebook, they put together this commission, and we're going to see if we're going to continue to keep him off the platform, and we're going to make the decisions. I'm like, what is this? Is this something that 5-year-olds are putting together when they're playing games they don't want to play with their friend? This commission that consists of nothing but liberals, and you already know the answer. They're going to keep them off for as long as possible, but they want to make it seem as if though they're legitimate. And we've got to cross the T's and dot the I's, and we're taking this seriously, and we're going to think about it overnight. It's like the decision has already been made. Are you people nincompoops, or do you think that we're nincompoops? You don't want him on social media. Just say it. And then now Twitter they're looking at this, and they're going to see how far Facebook is going to carry this. I'm like, are you serious? This makes absolutely no sense. Twitter is not going to bring him back on. I'm not surprised that they're not bringing him back on. But I am surprised that people aren't up in arms over this. I am surprised that Congress keeps talking about this. I am surprised that the media, of all people, are sitting back and allowing this to happen. Or should I? Because they're afraid of President Trump. They're so afraid that if they get caught cheating again, or if they get caught, the truth comes out if they cheated the last time, that they won't be able to do it again. So they have to silence him because they feel that he can reach too many people this way. So we got to make certain that he's not there. And I would say to all the patriots, don't give up. Don't be disheartened, because the truth is on our side. And eventually, this thing will turn around if you stay steadfast. There is no way in the world anyone can convince me to believe or think that social media can freely silence voices that they don't like and then say, oh, this is a private company. A private company using public airways, a private company that's protected under the laws that govern publishing companies. Facebook is not a publisher, but yet and still they're acting like a publisher, and they're silencing voices. The same with Twitter. All we need is an attorney who's not afraid to go against them. That's all we need. We just need one attorney who will say, we're going to take this to the courts. But then if that were to happen, we would also need a judge who is willing to uphold the law and say, I'm sorry, Facebook and Twitter, you don't get this protection under Section 230. No, you don't. And at the same time, to have governors like Governor Ron DeSantis to create a law to say people can sue, and you can sue up to this amount, because you think of the livelihood that Facebook and Twitter and YouTube have canceled because they don't like the truth. And it is the truth that's being told. They don't like the truth. They would prefer terrorists to appear on their platforms and terrorize individuals and put out anti-Semitic words, Black people fighting each other in the ghetto, people stripping, no clothes on Twitter, pornography on Twitter. They're okay with that, where clearly their rules say no pornography. But no, that's free speech. But you're going to silence the president, the 45th president of the United States? Again, it only takes one attorney. And it's times like this that I wish I had gone to law school. It only takes one attorney who's not afraid to stand up, who's not afraid to say, hey, I might lose, might get kicked out of my Tony White glove law firm, but I need to stand up for what's right, because what's happening now is wrong. It is completely wrong. There you have it. Ray, what do you say?
I couldn't agree more with Andrew, what you said, and Rob, what you're saying. I mean, 4.5 years ago, I think we all started to see the deterioration of our free speech. You know, I thought all along, I said, they're never gonna, silence a poet. I mean, that's like wrong. I mean, what did I do? I mean, I just express myself in such a way that is different than commentary, like what we're doing right now. We're talking, we have commentary, we have points of view. There are things that are written, newspapers, and, all kinds of stuff you can read. But what a poem does is it condenses a lot of words into a few words, and hopefully it creates commentary. So I thought, this is never going to happen, but it did. And it hurt. I mean, it hurt so many people. This last year has been, I mean, thank goodness it's starting. I can walk around South Florida now without a mask. I mean, that mask was our freedom. I mean, it's nice seeing people's faces again. Seriously.
Right. To see the smiles.
Yes. I mean, people, we sucked it up, whether we liked it or not. We went along with this, and now all of a sudden, they're saying that, well, maybe there was a purposeful leak, or this wasn't, bats. This was a leak. Now, think about it. If you right, I mean, it's laughable. but they didn't allow it even to be discussed. So all of these conspiracy theories that we had to like defend are coming true. But
Well,
in my mind, the biggest conspiracy theory is critical racist theory.
oh, well, hold on. We're going to talk about that. But Ray,
Oh,
oh yeah, I've got to talk about that. But what I would
you
love
want
for
me to
you
read a
do,
poem?
well, I want you to read, before you read the poem, your opening. You used to have a podcast and you had an opening. And if you wouldn't mind, could you share that? Because I think that is so powerful. It's
Sure.
akin to what we're going through today with them trying to silence our voices. So if you have it in front of you, if you could just read that, I
do.
want people to hear it. Go ahead.
Okay, just a little background. 2 years ago, I had a podcast on America Out Loud, as you guys know, and it was just an interesting experience. But I opened up my show 5 days a week with just two verses, and here they are. We cannot let their voices stifle our cause. This political crisis puts our head in their jaws. History is upon us. We've seen this before. We can never allow freedom to exit our shore. Just two little
That
verses.
says it all. Verses that
We can't. We
encapsulates
can't
exactly.
allow freedom to be lost in this country, and it's like it's slipping away.
Yeah, it's slipping away before our very eyes, and the powers that be, they seem to be with it. And it's startling that for the past 4 years, looking back, how the left, they rallied against President Trump and said how he was illegitimately elected, that there was collusion. And to this day, June 6th, 2021, there has not been one iota of evidence that there was collusion with the Trump campaign and Russia. Not one iota. Yet they impeached him. I don't even remember why they impeached him the first time. I know the second time, oh yeah, they said Ukrainian. A farce, if I ever heard of farce. And then the second time, oh, the fake insurrection. No one from the Capitol was impeached for insurrection. Not impeached, but arrested for insurrection. And people are going their merry little way while the country is slowly deteriorating, slowly falling down, and China is just rising up. The collusion was with Joe Biden. Why isn't the media at him with his cozy little deal with Russia? They haven't said, where's Maxine Waters? All roads lead to Joe Biden and Putin, Russia. Where's the outcry? Where's the concern? There's your collusion. But the media just conveniently overlooking it. Back to what you said, Ray, about the virus. Oh,
Yes.
No. It wasn't. It didn't escape. Trump. He's just talking. He's lying. Dr. Fauci is a fraud. He lied. People died. Why aren't people going after him and suing? They should sue him. They should sue the media. They should sue big tech for trying to shut down the truth. If anyone on the Hill, on either side, Republican or Democrat, independent, or these people who like to say, well, I'm a libertarian. Okay, fine. Okay, be a libertarian. All of you should be up in arms and demanding that Fraudy and the media and big tech are held accountable, and you should sue and you should get money because they all lied and covered up. Because had they ran the story, people would have questioned it, and then the media would have had an obligation and felt the pressure to research. That's their job. We can't do it, but they can. What happened? It's sad. It really is. I cannot believe that here we are, 2021, and the media has let us all down. The only thing they're worried about is racism. racism and blacks, and look at how they're treating blacks, and look at the police or this. And I'm like, take it down a level. Stop running around with your hair on fire. Okay, let's look at this holistically. Blacks make up 13% of the population. And in Chicago, Baltimore, California, you got blacks, and New York City, across the world, not the world, but the United States, you have black people being killed by other black people on a daily basis. And the only time it matters is when a police officer kills a black person, be it mistakenly or, if I want to say, racism. Well, it's really funny that they were never charged with a hate crime. So where's racism? People aren't thinking. They run with this stuff and don't say, wait a minute, you told us they killed him because he was black, it was racism, but when he went to court, he was on trial, he wasn't on trial for a hate crime or for racism. What happened? People don't think. Yes, racism exists. Look at the blacks that are attacking the Asians. Oh, there's an attack against the Asian community. Oh, it's a white man. Then we start looking a little deeper. Black. Look at the Jewish community. Oh, there's an uprise in hate crimes against the Jewish people. The white man. Then we look a little closer. Black. What the hell is happening?
Mm-hmm.
It's insane.
It feels like Black lives only matter when it's a police officer that kills the black person. You look at what just happened in Miami recently at this shooting. 25 people were shot in a matter of seconds. And the people that were shot looked to be black, and then the shooters looked to be black. And this was on the news, I think, last weekend, and I haven't even heard an update. Did they catch these guys? Perhaps Ray could tell us. He's from Southern Florida. But this story was nuts. This should have been a huge news story, and it disappeared overnight because the victims were black and they were not killed by police officers. Ray, have you heard any update on that story?
I really haven't. I knew that it was some kind of club atmosphere. I didn't know too much of what happened. I think they found a car that was submerged in a canal. I mean, they're just starting to piece it together now. We'll probably never really know exactly what happened. No more than we knew about the Pulse nightclub in Orlando or even Las Vegas to this day. What actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's basically been blamed on white people. And this is where it's going. I mean, I wrote a poem recently called "Whites Need Not Apply," and it's true.
Ray, do you have that poem to read for us?
I do.
Please do, because it works in perfectly. We can segue to it. Okay. Whites need not apply.
Whites need not apply. I wrote this in April. So it's not really that long ago. This is after the election, after things settle down and all this and that. But here it is. A sign comes into focus. I can't believe the sight. It hits you right between the eyes. Don't apply if you are white. They're canceling productions. A theater company's fright. Cinderella can't meet her fella because the cast is far too white. In nearly every advertisement, diversity is their plight. Paint on a palette isn't valid. Should it include the color white? They threaten Jews in Brooklyn. It's how the Irish learned to fight. It wasn't skin that was the sin. They were considered worse than white. Dark men lived this daily, cheated of that fundamental right. They won't pay character by the hour. They see it repeated when you're white. Society needs a scapegoat. Shame with all your might. Guess whose turn to be the worm? Yup, it's the color white. We are heading down a path which no one's gonna like. All the progress that's been made taints every color, including white. One wonders what it's gonna take to end racism and the like. But I'll maintain that it's insane to blame the color white.
point. So
There you
true to
there you
what's
have
happening
it.
now. Powerful. Now, let's just segue to something that you had talked about, Ray. You had mentioned critical race theory. Uh,
Yes.
it's a bunch of garbage,
This
in
is
my opinion.
this is a conspiracy theory, in my opinion. This is a huge conspiracy theory. They talked about the conspiracy theory of Wuhan and Trump collusion and this with Russia. But this critical race theory is critical racist theory. And I'm glad that some states are voting not to allow it. But this is going on. And it's happening to our children.
Yeah.
I mean, this is beyond when you start influencing the brain of a young person to feel shame for how they were born, that because you're white, you're bad. Could you imagine what it feels like? We're old enough to know that this is BS. Okay, and we're not going to put up with it, none of us. But a 10-year-old or an 8-year-old or a 6-year-old goes
Yeah.
to their parent and says, "Mommy, are we bad people?
Mm-hmm.
What did we do?" And this is what's being taught, a curriculum. I just you know it's horrifying.
It's extremely
I
horrifying. It's extremely
you
horrifying,
know
and it makes you wonder, why aren't more parents speaking out against it? And the ones who are, they're being attacked, and they're being told that they're the racist. There is no good out of this critical race theory. How can you force to say that white people are inherently bad because of what their ancestors did to black people? Okay, we all know that slavery existed, but we've got to put all this in context. And when I say put it into context, we have to look at the entire world. There was always a group of people enslaving another group of people. That's just the way it was. Look at Rome. But they conquered almost the entire world. And then the barbarians came in. And then the Moors. And now we want to sit here and just like throw our arms up and say, oh, well, we need this, we need that. At some point, it has to stop. And we had on our show not too long ago, Chris Tremogli, and he had done a piece, and we were talking about the Tulsa, Oklahoma incident, which is extremely important, celebrating this, well, not celebrating, but it's commemorating the 100th anniversary as to what happened when blacks were killed by a band of Ku Klux Klan members. I mean, just completely just destroyed the town, Black Wall Street. And they were talking about it. And he said, well, the worst lynching in America took place in Louisiana, when I think almost 5,000 Italians were lynched one day. People should look it up. We don't even mention that. Some would say, oh, but it has nothing to do with slavery. You're right, it has nothing to do with slavery, but it's part of history. And we need to remember the history. But trying to go back and heal all the wrongs of the past, we would never be able to do it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I even look at the American Indians, and people they love saying, oh, we broke all of our promises to the Indians, we did this. But no matter where you go, you have people that conquered and took over other people. We've got to understand that and realize it's part of our history. We don't like it, but it's history. It's an ugly part of history, but it's history.
Well, my feeling, I've said or I felt that it's really not fair. I don't even know if that's the word, to make a current value judgment based on what happened 150 years ago. We don't know what people thought and how they acted. But to now, in a current environment make a value judgment that, well, that's why all those statues had to come down,
hmm
right? I mean, they had to come
Yeah,
down. Hi, Heather.
Hey,
That's why
Heather just joined us.
That's why it's so important that this history stays up. I mean, a lot of people forget that over 350,000 white men died to end slavery. That just happened to be Republicans. But yeah, that happened, and white people do not get any credit that they turn the other shade to this horrible history we had in our country, and we turned it around, and it's just continuously things have continuously gotten better.
Right, but that's the thing. They with the whole critical race theory, they don't even acknowledge that, and it's not that they don't know it; they don't want to acknowledge it. Goes back to the 1619 project, with them not wanting to, or them trying to change what actually happened in history. And then you have this young lady, Nicole Hannah Jones, who when it first came out, I remember clearly when the New York Times were talking about run this series of the Team 19 project, and I looked, I'm like, wow, this seems interesting. And I started looking at it, I'm like, wait a minute. She is saying that the United States was actually formed when the first slave came to America. And she just completely omitted the entire Revolutionary War, the fight that we had with England trying to obtain our independence, as if though that never existed. And then she came back and said, well, actually, no, I wasn't saying that. I was just saying that this was an essay. This was a piece. I'm like, no, you lied. I know what you said. And it's on the internet what you said, because you can't erase it. And now she was up for a tenure at, I think, UNC, and they're denying it. And now you have all these people that are freaking out saying, oh, this is not right. She should be allowed. No, because if she were a white man and had that mistake, they would say, no, bye, see you later, next time. So what's the difference? She's black, but she's a black woman who happened to have lied about history, who's pushing this fake history lesson. They have all these liberal schools that are taking it in, public schools with our tax-paying dollars. No, I admit history that we've been taught, they've left out a lot of that. They've left out a lot of history. The Tulsa, like I said, the riots. Even when I was in school, when we got ready to talk about the civil rights, that was always in the very back of the book, and it wasn't brought up. No, it wasn't brought up because the teachers didn't feel comfortable talking about it. They didn't feel that the kids were mature enough to talk about it. But it was there, but it just wasn't covered. Because by the time we got to the end of the history book, school was over. That semester was over. But this whole thing that what she's pushing, that the liberals are pushing, is divisive. And if we allow it to happen with our kids, as you mentioned, Ray, they're turning our kids into little activists. Now you think about it. Kids that are growing up now, a decade from now, they'll be so indoctrinated to hate themselves that we'll be sending them to psychologists and psychiatrists, liberal psychologists and psychiatrists, who will be making money off the sorrows of these kids, trying to tell them, oh, you're okay, you're okay. Why don't we just stop it now? We should just stop it now. Heather, how are you?
I'm fine, Rob. It's really great to see and hear you guys.
Yeah, we've been off for quite some time, as we said in the opening hour. Ray just gave us one of his great poems. Mm-hmm. But we thought that, hey, let's bring the group back together. We're going to try to do this at least like twice a month or as much as we can, because I enjoy communicating with the people. It's just the energy that we get when we have these conversations live and collectively, and we're getting different viewpoints. So I really appreciate that.
Oh, it's great to see you. Yes.
Yeah. So, but now that you're on, what are your thoughts about, as you've appeared on our podcast, about the what's going on with the Israelis and the Palestinians, and Benjamin Netanyahu, what they're doing to him? Do you think he'll survive, or do you think he's out?
Well, Rob, I guess, to be candid, I know the big picture. I haven't followed every intricacy of Bibi's attempts to continue, and I know he's marshaling his forces and trying to form coalitions. As in general, my understanding is in Israel, it's a coalition government system. It's much more democratic actually than ours. But what that means is that the smaller parties can exert more influence than they do in the American system. They can get together and form alliances. For those of our listeners and viewers who maybe are pop culture fans, you could say it's a little like Survivor in that way. It's like the show Survivor where you form alliances. So anyway, I think that my understanding, what I read, is that Bibi was particularly going to the Russian, Jewish, Israelis, and a couple other key sort of constituencies who tend to back him, among the ultra Orthodox and the Orthodox. And he's trying to really get his people, the people who view him as, a great leader. I actually am among those people, although I'm an American, but I believe that I'll tell you, I think of Bibi Netanyahu as kind of an historic figure. And I think he's brought Israel through some very, very hard times. He's been embattled. And I always think back on the times when the world was pressing Israel to concede monumental lands and all kinds of concessions to Yasser Arafat. And at the time, Bill Clinton was pushing that, and we had the whole world leaning on Israel, which is not an uncommon dynamic, but there was this idea that any decent leader would make these concessions for peace, so-called land for peace. And I remember at the time, Netanyahu would not concede on certain issues that he thought were crucial to Israel's security. And I still remember him sitting there with Arafat and with Bill Clinton. I was, a young kid, but I remember seeing him sort of glare at them, and he dug in, and he knew that there would be no peace. He knew that Arafat was preaching war to his people, that was a farce, Oslo, I mean. So I always think of that, and I think about how Netanyahu lost the prime ministership over that. He wouldn't go along with it, and he was out of power for a number of years. And so I believe that he, listen, I'm sure he's an operator, as all politicians generally are, but I believe that his core is very authentic, that he would not compromise Israel's security. I think Israel's in safest hands with him. And so I really hope that he hangs in there. And I don't know what the odds are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, this has been it'll be the fifth election in the last 2 years. I mean, this is like a saga. Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, when thousands of rockets are raining down on Israel, and they still take it in the chin, it doesn't matter. It's somebody recently asked me, why does everybody, what is the problem with Jews? Okay, and I said that's like the 5,000-year question that nobody can answer. It's just mind-boggling. But their defense will never be questioned by the Israelis. I mean, they argue, the Israelis, from what I understand, I mean, and it's not just Israelis, all different people live in Israel. Arabs, Palestinians, Jews, Russians, this, that. It is a melting pot, and they allow all of these people to have representation. Even in Gaza, they try to help. I mean, there's literally even the sewage in Gaza goes out to the Mediterranean. It's a mess. These people are just dying from the unhealth. Right. And Israel doesn't turn their back on these people, but it's the element, of Hamas and Hezbollah that just are hell bent on their destruction. How can there be a peace when you want to destroy your enemy? Right. You tell me how. How is it possible? And I agree with Heather. I think that Netanyahu is probably the strongest to protect this country, this small little country. In one area, it's 9 miles wide, and in another, it's about 80 miles. It's tiny. It was desert. It was nothing, and they grew it. And look what the technology that comes out of Israel, and even like Egypt, they recognize this. They're trying to help. It is a dynamic situation, and I don't know. I mean, I just can't see a solution, but one thing is for sure, they will survive.
Right.
Amen.
No, and Andrew, you've heard that the other needs to be a better person, stronger to lead Israel. What are your thoughts?
Right. I'm looking forward to the change. I've heard good things about Bennett, the new guy that's in charge. He's also on the right wing of things, and I've heard he's much tougher, or going to be much tougher on terrorism and the Palestinian side of things. So I think it was time for a change. I really lost all my respect for Netanyahu when he turned his back on President Trump after the election. He was one of the first world leaders to congratulate Joe Biden when President Trump was still debating the election results. President Trump was so good to Benjamin Netanyahu, and the first thing he does is goes and congratulates Joe Biden on November 7th, I believe, just a couple of days after the election.
Well,
I think that's just diplomacy.
I was going to make
without no disrespect, Andrew.
Yeah, I think
that's what a world leader does. Period. End of story. Even if we think Joe Biden
he should have had some loyalty to President Trump and let the process play out before he rushed.
But they're worried. They're worried about, okay, what is the United States going to do? What they say is you keep your friends close, your enemies closer.
Yeah, they don't have the luxury of picking a horse. It's interesting that you mentioned that, because I remember, and a friend, of mine pointed this out to me in the months leading up to the election. Our President Trump, who, as you guys know, I was and remain a huge admirer of. One thing that he did that I actually didn't agree with was, and this was pointed out to me by someone else. There was a phone call that took place, and Bibi Netanyahu and Donald and President Trump were on the call, and President Trump said to Netanyahu, how do you like what we did down there, Bibi? The peace treaty, 3 Arab nations, which was a great accomplishment. I don't think you'd have gotten it done with Sleepy Joe, would you? Not with Sleepy Joe, huh? And it was funny, but it really put Netanyahu in an impossible spot, because he doesn't know what the outcome of the election will be. And actually, Netanyahu responded by saying, well, Mr. President, we're very grateful to you. And, we will be and would be to any, American president who helps us. That's the position of, it's kind of like being a tiny minority, being the kid in the class that's the littlest kid in the class, and the big guys are fighting. You don't really, you kind of have to, I think Israel's loyalty is always with America, that much I know, but in terms of picking a president, I think they can't show favoritism like that, because our system is such that it changes, and they are the smaller kid, basically. But I do think that Israel's loyalty, has been very strong. I think that, whether it was Iraq, and my sources have told me that a lot of top people in Israel did not agree with the Iraq war policy. They didn't think it was a realistic policy, but they will never come out publicly against America. And they also buy all their weaponry here. All the aid Israel gets comes back here to America and is spent here, which certainly is not true of most of the countries we give aid to. So I think when it comes to loyalty to America, that's very solid. But yeah, not so much in terms of picking candidates.
Good. Well, I'll say this, because Andrew and I had discussed this before, and I had thought the same thing, that I thought it was an act of diplomacy that he had reached out to say, congratulations, President Biden. But I can see also how some people would say, he should have waited, and he shouldn't have been the first person, considering Trump had done so much for the Israelis, including moving the embassy to talk about something else here, because there's a lot of things that what are your thoughts on political flag being flown over American embassies? Political flags as in the LGBTQ, Black Lives Matter specifically. Trump had said, no, not to do it. I understand that. I don't think anything political should be flown. Let me say this, the only flag we should see should be Old Glory, red, white, and blue. Now, I'm sure some in Congress don't want that, especially the rogues, the three horsemen, AOC, Rashid Tlaib, and Ilhan Omar, and Ayanna Pressley. They're growing their group, which is really scary, how the progressive wing is growing. And we have to somehow eradicate them from Congress, but we'll discuss that a little later on. But what are your thoughts on political flags being flown on American embassies?
Well, let me just jump in, because what they're doing is they're putting politics over country.
Mm-hmm.
This is the crux of the matter. And I'm just going to say this, because I was very upset today, because today is the 77th anniversary of D-Day.
Yes.
And I haven't seen anything on social media. I haven't seen anything on Facebook. I put up an essay I wrote 11 years ago about it, and I have like 300 or 400 friends. 5 people liked it. 5, and with no comments. There's no learning. There's no education. There's nothing to recognize. I mean, my father would roll over in his grave. He was D-Day +4. And he fought all over Europe and North Africa and Germany, and ultimately became a prisoner of war.
Oh my gosh, Ray.
And
Your father.
my father was a prisoner of war at the very end of the war. He was injured. He was in a German hospital. He tossed his dog tags, and he survived. And here I am with my
God
brother
bless your
and
father.
mother.
Thank your father for his service. We thank him for his service.
Well, he's gone now 20 years, but he would not believe how history is fading out of this country. It's like evaporating. It's like in the wind. It's gone with the wind. Is what's happening to American culture. So for them to put up a Black Lives Matter flag or an LGBT flag below the Old Glory is saying that politics is greater than country. So leave the country to us, patriots.
Yep. I agree.
And that's all I'm going to say about it.
I agree 100%. Well said, because it's as if they don't want us to have a culture. They hate the country. If you hate it so bad, then get the heck out. Completely. Get out. Heather, you said that you attended an event this weekend. Want to talk briefly about it?
Yes, in Reading, Pennsylvania. It was a World War II weekend commemoration. And I just wanted to mention that in small town USA, especially in these parts, it certainly seems that history is very much alive, Ray. If it's any comfort, I know that, many, many parts of the country, and that's very much in question. But people around here are so very passionate about respect for our veterans and memorializing and remembering, even down to the fine details of weaponry and the huge effort, the cooperative effort to mount the defense of this country that was so massive. And this was quite an event, and they recreated the raising of the flag at Iwo Jima that was captured by an AP photographer. They did a physical recreation of that. flew over with some of the planes that were used and have been preserved, and there was
That's wonderful.
memorializing of those lost, which of course the losses are too great for us to even really conceive of. But yes, definitely in Western Pennsylvania, there's great respect and effort to preserve
Right.
the memories of what
Mm.
happened.
But are they
Okay.
teaching it in school? Now, I know that some places school isn't even, open yet. But are they teaching it? We just don't see it anymore. When we grew
No.
up, a soldier, even to look at Congress,
Mm.
50 years ago, like 60% of Congress was soldiers, veterans. Now it's like 8%.
Right. We need to
And military are looked down with disgust.
right.
No
We need to
different than the police or border
uh
patrol. We're seeing the same, this guy, and this guy that was finally convicted who killed Molly Tibbetts.
mm,
I don't know if you guys talked about it a couple of weeks ago on your shows or whatever.
go ahead.
It was an illegal alien who went berserk and abducted this beautiful young lady who was a student at the University of Iowa, a Hawkeye, and brutally murdered her 3 years ago. And he finally went on trial and they convicted him of first-degree murder. And then when this happened, I wrote a poem called Pray for Molly. Because half the United States didn't give a hoot. They were more concerned with Trump's tax returns during the
Yep.
Mueller investigation.
Yep. Ray, do you have that poem?
I do.
Yes. Would you please read it for us? Because I think, and like you said, people didn't care about it. And then this guy, the knucklehead, had the audacity to get on the stand and to say that some masked man abducted him, forced him to take her body and bury the body or something. I'm like, are you?
I felt bad for her boyfriend as well, that had to testify that he didn't do it because they were trying to point the finger at him as well.
And they
was
just didn't want
unbelievable.
to say that it was. They didn't want to say that it was an illegal alien.
And you know what the media said? They said that a farm worker was
Farm
convicted.
worker.
I'm like, are you serious? This is folks, this is America. Look at what the media is doing to our great country. Ray, are you ready?
I am.
Go ahead.
It's called Pray for Molly. My head is just fuming. I've had an hour of sleep. Our hearts broken in Iowa, while half the nation won't weep. No mainstream media coverage. It's swept under the mat. They'd rather praise Mueller because some tax forms were crap. Heartless, emotionless, numbed, almost dead. These Dems thirst for power, while the criminals are bred. To colored straws and balloons, they are applying the heat, while illegals and needles litter our street. Our anger is raging, we cannot sit back. It's time we took back the reins, put our nation on track. Take the disgust we are feeling, bring pressure to bear. The wall must be built, fill the justice's chair. Alas, come November, a vote must be red, the same color of blood our dear Molly has shed. And we lost the midterms. This was the midterms we lost.
Mm.
You think about it. We've been lied to. We've been lied to over this pandemic. We've been lied to possibly about, they had the cyber attack against the pipeline, right? Shut down all of that. Then they did something to the food processing plant. Hackers can shut down the world, power grids. What makes them think that they couldn't get into a voting machine that's attached to the internet? We all get hacked.
Absolutely. But the media is telling them it can't happen. It's impossible. They lied about the virus. They said it's impossible. It was through a bat. Trump is lying. It wasn't through some lab. And we talked about it on the show. Said, I felt, they said maybe, that it was in the lab. The person went to the wet market, but I always felt that it originated in the lab. But I also always felt that it was a biological warfare, that China launched the first attack. And the media is so stupid and so dumb. And I hate to be so frank, but then I have to. Because you look at these guys, they are busy. They're busy focusing on, in New York City, sex scandal involving a guy who's running for mayor, Stringer, as opposed to focusing on Governor Cuomo. They can focus on every other sex scandal except for his. They can focus on everyone else who got it wrong with the China virus except for Cuomo. And you know what? He's going to run again. He's planning on running again. You know what else? Taxpayers in New York will have to foot the bill, his attorney bill, legal fees. And you know what else? He's planning on holding a fundraiser, high dollar plate fundraiser, because he wants to run. And then to keep everyone from looking at this, his daughter conveniently came out and said, oh, by the way, I'm a lesbian. I don't care. That doesn't make her special.
Not even I'm a lesbian. What did she say? I'm queer.
Oh, yeah, I'm queer.
Means she likes boys and girls, and
Oh, that's what it is. I get confused.
Him and De Blasio's daughters can hang out.
Oh my God. This is the state of our country. They're focused on everything except what's important. So do you think that they would be truthful with us if China was knocking at the door, if China was pulling the strings on Biden? Do you think they would tell us? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We could wake up one day, the next saw was a China flag. Oh my gosh, I hate they say it, hanging over our nation's capital. And the media would not blink. They would say, nothing to see here, move on. Eventually the United States is going to fall.
We're looking at a socialist regime. And
the people that we have in Congress, AOC, she's come out saying, oh, we don't need prisons, we need rehabilitation centers, we need. How the heck is she in Congress? She knows little about nothing. Look at the other day, a 5-year-old kid in the desert in Mexico screaming because they left him there. This is all Biden's fault, but the media has not once been. They have not once said, Joe Biden, why are you, closing up to? Why aren't you questioning as to whether or not they hacked these accounts? The gas. Nothing. If this were Trump, they would be out there all the time. Another point I want to make: this tennis star, Naomi Osaka, the media is having a fit because she won't go to a press conference, and she won't this and she won't that, and they're going to fine her. You got the president of the United States who barely gives a press conference. You got the vice president who has not given a press conference.
Where is she, by the way?
Oh, she was apparently headed to Guatemala, but then her plane had problems. She had to come back. I don't believe that for at all. But
Isn't
why
that
does she
what
have?
she does?
Why does she, wait,
I call her the Black Widow.
The cackle. Why does she need to go to Guatemala when she can just give a phone call? Why use taxpayer money?
It's window dressing.
Absolutely.
That's all it is. It's just window dressing. There's nothing.
And the media is saying
there's no substance.
Absolutely.
There's no substance.
The media is saying absolutely nothing.
Who do you guys think is really running the country?
Oh, Obama's running the country. Obama,
Susan Rice.
Yeah. I mean, she's giving her the talking points. Obama is doing it.
Maybe even Clinton.
It feels like it might be even worse than what Obama was. The spending and the jobs, it's the border. It seems like Biden is even more far left than Obama was, but maybe Obama would feel more comfortable doing it under Biden's name instead of his own.
Oh yeah, because Because he would come out and say, Obama would come out and say, well, they wouldn't let me do it because I'm black. Oh, please, that's a bunch of hogwash. You were president for 2
8
terms,
years.
8 years. And they wouldn't let you do what? They wouldn't tell you because I'm afraid that they were racist. I am so sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm waking up now of this whole racist thing, and Obama's coming out saying this. This is the reason why we have platforms like this. Because the media will not speak the truth. You don't have to agree with us. Whatever we say, you can challenge us. You can look it up for yourself. Go to DuckDuckGo. Google won't give it to you because Google is too busy cahooting with China. But I would encourage you all to share this broadcast and to tell others to listen, look, and wake up. We might not agree on everything, but we're trying to be truthful. And one of those truths is the media, the mainstream media, CNN, MSNBC, they have been compromised in telling the truth. And I wish Republicans, conservatives would stop going on Chris Wallace. Stop allowing him to interview you. Shut him down. That is the only way we will get their attentions. Stop going on CNN. Stop it completely. Okay, go to Newsmax. If you don't like Fox News, come on our show. There are a lot of independent conservative shows out there, but you have got to hit them where it hurts. Chris Wallace is a zero. Okay, I know he's been out there for a long time, but he has been compromised. You got to stop going on his show. I don't like Chris Wallace. I don't know the man personally, but his politics, his journalistic style, or lack of, I don't like. Anderson Cooper is not a journalist. He's a commentator. He's a pundit. He just wants to be seen. He has an agenda. Chris Cuomo, God, if you guys are still watching Chris Cuomo, then you're lost. I can't help you. I can't. Come on, let's just be honest. I cannot help you. Don Lemon, are you serious? Don Lemon, the man who was sexually harassing another man about 2 years ago in the Hamptons, and they're yet to say anything about it. Joy Reid, the biggest homophobe, racist, angry black woman out there. Lawrence O'Donnell, an old, angry, white liberal man. Rachel Maddow, I mean, she's an angry lesbian. She's also mad. They're all mad about something. None of them are happy. And yes, I'm saying this because I want them to get mad at me and they can come on here and debate. And then the only thing I would just say is, you guys don't speak the truth. That's it. That's all you have to say. I wouldn't argue with them. I would just say, you don't speak the truth. You have lied for the past 4 years. You have lied. Well, actually, the past more than 8 years, 12 years, including Obama's years. You lied. Joe Biden is insane. We all know it. Stop lying. But if you guys are still watching them, shame on you. But to conservatives, I mean, you're not going to get off easy either because there's too much to be done. And Andrew and I have spoken about this on our nightly show, Monday through Friday, that conservatives like to point out the weaknesses of liberals. They like to say, oh, well, look at the black lives that are dying in Chicago. Okay, yeah, they're dying in Chicago. They're killing each other. But what the heck are you doing? There's an opportunity for you to get your butts out there and say, hey, give us a chance. Look at us. We don't need for you to tell us all the time, because Mr. Conservative, that blacks are dying in Chicago. We get it. Look at what happened to the blacks this weekend. We see it. What are you doing to get those votes? I was looking at one lady on Twitter, Laverne Spicer. I mean, she should be able to defeat Frederica Williams or whoever she is. But are conservatives supporting her? You guys have got to do a better job supporting these candidates and supporting conservative media. You got to do a better job. Stop running to the Washington and the New York Times. Whenever I see you've written an op-ed, I'm like, are you serious? They don't want to know what you have to say. They're going to use it against you. Stop it. It's frustrating.
We can't stop fighting. You know, I mean,
Absolutely
tonight
not.
I just let loose. I apologize to some degree, but I just couldn't help
No,
myself.
Ray,
between-
no, you let loose. You need to let loose. That's what needs to happen. We need to let loose because conservatives are playing it too easy. Why are they always going on Jake Tapper? And then Jake Tapper comes out and says, I'm going to let some of these conservatives come on my show, as if though his show is the show to come on. Dana Bash. Are you serious? Melvin, the guy on MSNBC. Brian Williams. You can put them in a basket, as Hillary Clinton once said, and call them a basket of misfit wannabe journalists. That's what they are. Because they can't speak the truth. They're always spinning lies. All of them should have come out and said, we got it wrong when it came to COVID-19. And then they should shut up, set up a fund and put some of their paychecks so that people can take some of the money. Okay? Because too many people, we have lost too many lives because of their lies. Them covering up for for China.
Mm-hmm.
And then Dr. Fauci coming out, he know that they did gain of whatever what is it called?
Gain of function.
Gain of function. He knew darn well what happened. And then to pretend as if though it didn't, when 15,000 people in New York died. And again, I want to know the breakdown because you tell me that it hit the Black and brown community so hard. I want to know how many Black people died, how many brown people. But no one is being held accountable.
Wasn't there something in the news, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but about Fauci having some investment in this gain of function research, like in addition to working on it, like having some monetary investments in it or something in China? Or am I wrong about that? I thought I saw something about that reported.
What it is that Dr. Fauci, had set up a company to do research under his purview, and he gets all this federal money, and then he directed some of the funds to this research company that he set up for them to do gain of function, and they were doing it with China. So he's saying that. I mean, he was very careful in wordsmithing when Rand Paul, whom Andrew loves, and I see why he likes the guy, because at one point I was like, I don't know, but I see why, Andrew, because the guy is sharp. He pinned Dr. Fauci to the wall and he said, are you sure you didn't do this? And Fauci was clever in wordsmithing. He said, well, no, I didn't. And then Rand Paul said, what about a company that you own? Well, that's not known to me. As if though to say, if they did do it, they did it without my knowledge. He's very smart and very sneaky. And what needs to happen now is they're saying that he was answering the questions and he wasn't under oath. Greg Garrett of Fox News said that it doesn't matter if he was under oath or not. Whenever you go before Congress, it is considered that you're under oath. But of course, the liberal media will say, oh, no, he's got to go under oath. So I think they should drag his butt before Congress and ask him the poignant questions. I mean, don't go into all this elaborate, well, what about this? What about that? Just say, Dr. Fauci, you wrote this. This was in the email. Is this your email? Yes or no? Yes. And you knew about this? Yes or no? Don't allow him to go into these long conversations to confuse people. Time is up for that. We have learned since Trump was in office that people on the Hill will lie. And I hate to say this, but our government will lie also, certain parts of it. The FBI under Christopher Wray is compromised. There are a lot of people that have been working in the FBI going back to the Clinton and Obama years. They are still there. They're what you call professional swampers. They will stay there and they will manipulate and massage the records. Okay, we've got to be honest about this, folks. We have got to be honest. there are a lot of folks that are there that have been compromised. And they're working in cahoots with the media and big tech. It has to stop. I would have never thought in a million years when I heard people saying the government, you can't trust the government. I've always been a proponent that you can, that the government looking out for us. But since Trump went into office and seeing the way the government has worked, congressmen lying, openly lying and telling us about collusion, and there was no collusion. Impeaching the president over a phone call that presidents and other people have made all the time. And then to lie about an insurrection when the people who are locked up now have not been charged with insurrection. They have been charged with disorderly conduct. And what was the other? Disorderly conduct and trespassing. But nothing for insurrection. Whereas a United States military army person, Ashley Babbitt, was shot down in cold blood. Now, I would encourage you all to listen to our show tomorrow, because we have a gentleman on the show who is going to break this down. And what he has to say is unbelievable. You got to listen to that show tomorrow at 9. I mean, it will change the way you thought or what you were told about January 6th. What was his name, Andrew?
Robert Patrick Lewis.
Hill.
Patrick Lewis.
Robert Patrick Lewis, right. But Robert Patrick Lewis. You've got to listen to the show tomorrow because it's a powerful show.
Mm-hmm.
And
he's a former Green Beret, and he was working security on January 6th for a lot of the speeches that were taking place. He owns a security company, so he's got an inside view of what went on. It's very interesting.
Wow. So he'll be on tomorrow night?
Yep, he'll be on tomorrow night, and then for people who miss it tomorrow night, the podcast should be up Wednesday or Thursday, hopefully. Just to change directions a little bit, what do you guys make of these recent UFO sightings that we've seen in the Navy, I believe it was, who's seen the crazy spiral thing? I heard Marco Rubio talking about it, saying that looked like it's clearly technology that's superior to ours. Ray, what's your belief on UFOs?
I think UFOs are a hoax, conspiracy theory. You know, I know there's a large universe out there. I love astronomy. I love talking about the universe and the possibility of life, but it's hasn't been really successfully found yet. Even the Mars missions right now, I mean, they have to wait like 10 years to get some of the dirt back to the Earth to even analyze it. So we're still even 10 years away to even conclude that there was life on Mars. I mean, we don't even think there's life in a fetus.
Yeah, that's frustrating. That's a frustrating.
Very, very frustrating. But to answer your question, no, I just think it's folklore.
Yeah, that's a frustrating thing about space.
It's
so interesting, but it takes so long to find out
answers.
more information. Yes, Heather, what are your thoughts on the recent UFO phenomenon that we've seen?
Well, you know, I my leaning is in the same direction as Ray. I'm not a science person, guys. I claim no expertise, and so I would never, assert that it's not. Listen, who knows? But I think I'm not really aware of evidence that I find terribly compelling that there is higher life anywhere but this planet. And I think that my hunch is that maybe this sounds like its own conspiracy theory, but I think at a time,
let's bring it.
Well, when we've had, as Rob said, so much just BS, I mean, from different corners of our own establishment in this country, things we've been asked to believe and take on faith because we are told that we must not ask questions any further at risk of destabilizing things. But meanwhile, some groups and some individuals are allowed to endlessly not only ask questions, but, object, protest, even violently protest. I mean, I think there's so much that's inconsistent in the way our government has dealt with the people of this country the past 4 years, particularly, that I think I wonder if maybe this is a bit of a distraction for people, if this is something to kind of give the public to chew on, so that we don't chew on other things that certain powers that be don't really want us to keep asking questions about.
Well, here's my take on it. Something that Ray said that I think is really important is that we believe that there's life in outer space, yet and still we don't believe that fetuses are babies and that women can have abortions. Now that's interesting, because you have one that's the unknown, then another you have something that you can look at, something that's tangible. My other take on it is that why is it that people are so concerned about there being people in outer space? Do we want them to come here and have sex with them? That we can, more than likely, that's what liberals want to do, so they can produce some kid. But the other thing is that if we can't get along here, why in the heck do we want someone from outer space to come here and experience systemic racism? I'm serious. Think about it. If there is systemic racism, by God, don't you think that the white man is going to discriminate against the alien? What the freak is going on here, folks? I mean, think about it. People, they have to be out there. They have to be okay. And if they aren't, do we really want to introduce them to systemic racism? Why don't we clean up our mess first before we start trying to get them here? And as one of our guests said on our show, Michael Loftus, is that, do we really want them here? They might come here and say, we don't want the people, but we want their water. We want their natural resources. And because they can't get it together, because the police officers are always killing the black people and the brown people, and then the white people are always oppressing everybody else, let's just kill all them and take their natural resources. Think, folks.
I want to know. I want to know what happened to climate change. I don't really hear much in the news right now. I hear a lot about guns, Second Amendment, but I think Heather, you're right. It's a distraction. It's all one big distraction.
So we didn't need to be scared about global warming for the past year. So now we've got to all start screaming about global warming again, because now it's. Yeah.
May I read one more poem before we get out of here?
Absolutely, Ray. Go for it.
Okay, this is a poem I wrote 4.5 years ago when I started to see the deterioration of what to me was just a wonderful country growing up, And here it is. It's like a fairy tale, Once Upon a Time. Once there was tolerance. We gave each a chance. Now we'll bury an adversary because of their stance. Once there was justice. Now just a rope. Guilt from a mob, while proof is a joke. Once there was freedom to say what you felt. Now watch your own back and prepare for a welt. Once there was a country for you and for me. Now it's for me and for you. Now it's divided, broken in two. Once there was pride and bounce in our step. Now there is violence from right and the left. Once we were patriots with similar thoughts. Now an internal battle is about to be fought. Once there was brotherhood and sisterhood too. Now we are colorblind. It's either red or it's blue. Once there were symbols appealing for peace. Where has the love gone? With hate on the increase. It's time to take stock. Give the process a chance. Change is uncomfortable, a new step in the dance. Believe in democracy. It's not on the run. It's still solidly here. Good things still to come. Have a positive outlook. It works ever so well. It's time that our oceans have a more positive swell. I wanted to feel a little sense that there's something positive happening but it's been really hard. It's been really hard for all of us.
Yeah.
Because we've taken it on the chin. I mean, and now, Trump is gone, but, I hope he doesn't run, honestly. I really don't. I think it would be hell on earth. We need something new, but I do. I don't know who, maybe someone like Condoleezza Rice, I don't know, but I think
How
if
about
Trump runs, we're going to be in deep. I'm
Ron
not going to say
DeSantis, maybe he's done a great job in Florida. Of course,
DeSantis.
yeah, they'll
Yeah.
demonize him and all that, but he's a little more polished. He's, kind of got some of the Trumpian boldness and vigor, but he's a little more of a politician.
I think we have to start with the next midterm.
That's interesting.
I just want to say one thing about Joe Manchin, because I coined a new phrase today. We've been talking about rhinos, right?
Yep.
He's a dino. He's like Fred Flintstone's pet dinosaur. He's the one. He's like, the famous fairy tale
Dino.
about the kid who puts his thumb in the dike. You know that story, right? I forget the guy's name. It's like a Norwegian, or it's from the Dutch. It's a story. He literally has his thumb in the hole of a dam that could be a deluge. He doesn't want to go ahead with the voting rights, right? He doesn't want to go ahead with the filibuster, whatever that is. That's all these things are very confusing, by the way. Yeah. Most people have no idea what a filibuster is. If you asked 99% of Americans, what is the filibuster? But anyway, I think Joe Manchin is like, he's the thorn in their side, but he's the kid with the thumb in the dike right now. I mean, if we can hold off some of this legislation till the next election, maybe they could turn the House, and at least we could get out of this muck where they're just trying to, I was also glad to see that a couple of the recent Supreme Court decisions were 9-0. That shows solidarity, that they're saying, screw you. We're not going to be pressured by Congress. Congress does not, their job is to make law, not determine what's constitutional or not. There is a separation of power in this country that needs to resurface again if we're going to balance this out. I don't mind, listening to some, liberals, what they have to say, but they don't want to hear what we have to say. We're not the ones that have been attacked in this last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't attacked. We've been attacked. We're not the cause of a lot of this stuff that's happened. Trump, okay, Trump, but we were riding pretty good last January economically, were we not?
Yeah, absolutely.
This pandemic, now we're finding out that it may have been, a purposeful, criminal act, that with hundreds of thousands of people have died. Serious stuff. I mean, Trump took it on the chin. I thought he did close the border, correct, in January, knowing that there were problems in China. He never got credit for the vaccine, right? I mean, we're in a better place. I walk around Florida. I just before Heather came back, I can walk around now all over the place, into Walmart, Target, restaurants that say if you've been fully vaccinated, you don't have to mask. And I never felt that little cloth thing did anything, frankly, anything.
Right. And when they didn't, we're now finding out.
But it was psychologically, we were being kind to our fellow man and women.
Yeah. Well, just thank you for saying that. And you're so right. You're spot on. And like I said, we always enjoy when you're here to grace us with your poetic thoughts and feelings. I mean, I'm just enjoying being here live tonight with all of you.
Thanks,
something Now,
Me too.
before we end, we want to, as always, talk a little bit about pop culture and things that are taking place with pop culture. One of the things that I'll just start off with, and then I'll just shut up and let you guys take it from there, is that I don't give a rat's butt about Prince Harry and his wife. They're both complaining to millionaires, I've said before, Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey is one of the most wronged women in the whole world. She looks back at her past, and she's always finding something that she wants to say, woe is me, and this happened to me. Now her latest kick is her grandmother gave her a couple of lashes when she was a girl for spilling water. Okay, Oprah, you got over it. I know that it was probably traumatic, but you are now a billionaire, okay? Your grandma is dead. She's not coming back. If all those billions don't buy you happiness, I'm sorry. Go speak with Iyanla Vanzant, change my life, go on her show and cry and whatnot. But I'm sick and tired. You're 65 years old. At some point, give some happiness. Talk about something that's happy as opposed to misery. I mean, we went through the past year in misery. Can we not come out in a happy note? What is the problem with these people? I remember once a girl telling me, I was on a date, and she said that she wasn't from America. I think she might have been from the islands or from England. I can't remember. But she said, I find it what's interesting about Americans is that you guys always need someone to tell you what to do. And then she alluded to Oprah Winfrey. She said, you people, you guys look for Oprah to tell you that you're dumb, you're stupid, you shouldn't eat this, you shouldn't eat that. And Oprah Winfrey, a woman who has never married, is always giving marriage advice. She has never had any kids, but she can tell you how to raise children. What the heck are Americans doing and thinking? No wonder we're in trouble. So that's my little pop culture thing. Oprah, be gone. I'm tired of you and Gail. Okay, you're two middle-aged women or whatever what age you are. You're just sucking the life out of us. Go. Bye. Go away. Go ahead.
Well, I knew a gentleman who used to say, well, this is a bit harsh, but Oprah is the Pied Piper for the mindless. I don't know that she's that bad, but but you're funny. I mean, I think one of my expressions that I've coined is, this is a Heather Robinson original: if the mind is empty, the media will fill it.
Powerful.
I think that a lot of people, because we live in a time where there's a crisis in education and in faith, a lot of people have a lot of space to fill between their ears and in their hearts, and they, people need a sense of order and passion in life and connection and love. And when the spiritual isn't fulfilled, when people don't have their religion in a way that's meaningful to them, when their families aren't strong and fulfilling, then whether it's left-wing politics or it's Oprah or it's, something even more problematic, they will latch on to it. And I feel like we're, at a time when, science in a lot of ways kind of replaced religion, and for a while it sort of seemed like that was people's religion. And it's not a very warm and fuzzy and fulfilling thing, though, science. And anyway, as you guys know, I believe that for many leftists, leftism has become religion. And so anyway, I don't mean to get off on a tangent there, but maybe Oprah, people who look to her for guidance, I think that's better than looking to AOC. I mean,
oh God. And many people do. I mean, she has a huge following on Instagram, and like you said, what did you say? Mindless mind, the media will fill it. Empty mind, the media will.
If the soul is empty, the media
God.
will fill it.
And they're doing it for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it kind of feels like we've been in the same news cycle for like 10 years now that with this Jennifer Lopez Ben Affleck saga. I mean, hasn't she already been with A-Rod and broken up with A-Rod and
You know what? I
back
do
with
have an opinion.
A-Rod and yeah, now Ben
It's
Affleck the
never
same
going to
thing.
last. It's never going to last because they're both divas. And, you know, the only celebrity Hollywood marriages, not the only, but say 85% of them that are of any duration are a celebrity, a quote unquote star married to a real person, a regular person.
Would you call them
Because,
starstruck lovers?
well, maybe, but I think that, you know, listen, if
I,
someone has
I
one
always looked at
show,
Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward because they got out of Hollywood
Oh yeah,
mhm.
and they
yeah,
settled in
yeah.
Connecticut. He was, you know, he had Newman's Own. They had a lot of foundations. He died. I think she's still alive.
Kurt Russell and
Joanne Wood.
Goldie Hawn's another one.
They're an exception, Andrew, because they're
Hmm.
both big stars. But I think that my favorite celebrity couple is Brooke Shields and Chris Henchy. He's a writer producer. He produced the show Entourage. And she wrote about her first marriage to Andre Agassi, the tennis champion.
Hmm.
And, you know, I don't remember the whole thing, but the essence of it was they were both stars, divas, celebrities. And I think that these celebrities, they really basically they're where they are for a reason, right? They have talent, hopefully. They have tremendous drive and big ego. And that's hard, I think, on relationships. I think people like that who are kind of used to being the brightest light on the stage, on the screen, in every room, really need a very, very supportive and non-fame, non-spotlight seeking partner for something to work. So I think those two, they're both divas. That's not going to be permanent.
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
Hey, this is my town. You know, this is all happening in Miami. This is great. This is great stuff.
You know, I kind of like Brad and Jennifer together. It looks like he wanted to come back in somehow. He wanted another swing at it. It looks like she's not going to give it to him. But hey, of course, Heather, your favorite Bachelor.
Yeah.
I saw a piece on Chris Harris. They're going to give his slot to David Spade. I always said all along he should have never apologized. He should have stood his ground. So I meant what I said. I said what I meant. That was it, because he said nothing wrong.
And now his career is wrecked and over. It's so ridiculous, Rob. But I did see, on a brighter note, guess who are back together? Matt
Who?
James and Rachel, that girl that the PC fanatics made him dump. And remember, I said he looked absolutely miserable, like he was a victim of the Stockholm syndrome. Sure enough, it seems like they're crazy about each other. They've been seen in Florida and New York, and he said we're working on our relationship. And I'm pretty interested in body language, and I noticed that his arms always
You said that.
around her. Yeah, I think they fell in love, and or whatever version of falling in love, you know, these young kids in their 20s, whatever they, you know what I mean. I think at that age, a lot of it is more, you know, pheromones and basic sort of stuff. But you know, they seem to be crazy about each other, and I think that I really would like to. Yeah, to anyway, I just think that it shows that all this PC stuff, you know, basically goes out the window when it comes to real human emotions. And I think in some ways that's a good thing. You know, that's the upside of, let's face it, human beings and our emotions create a lot of problems, right, in the world.
Right.
And there is racism and there is territorialism and all the things that produce conflict and war and terrible everything. But the good side of human emotion is that human emotion doesn't really care about PC rules. If you fall for somebody, if you lust over somebody, you know, you want that person. You don't care what color they are. You don't care what they're, whatever. Maybe you do if you're, you know, mature, whatever. But I mean, the point, maybe you're looking for somebody who shares your politics or something if you're older. But I mean, my point is that, you know, when you're, you know, the truth is we're one human race, and you can't, you know, all the PC lecturing in the world is not going to change that. It's not going to make them unlike each other. And I think it's beautiful, actually.
Hmm. Well, yeah, you had said that all that you had noticed the chemistry, their body language when they appeared on the show, and he was, saying that take some time apart. They're going to do this. Uh, I thought the whole thing was just blown out of proportion because, again, as we showed our show, you guys can go back and look at the show when we had shown it, that this whole thing with the antebellum party was just completely just a distraction because Obama had invited the same people, Obama, the first black president, to march in his inauguration. So how is it that it became racist? Again, these people are crazy with the word racist. Years from now, rightfully so, because it's being used. Ridiculous. Who else do we have to remaining seconds to talk about in pop culture? Let's see here. Do you guys have anyone else that you want to talk about?
Well, I just started watching Kate Winslet on Mayor of Easttown on HBO, which is considered a hot new show, newish, about small town PA, and it's a crime drama. And I just began, but I think she's trying to play like a real Pennsylvania woman and stuff, which it's not political, but I do think it's kind of interesting that maybe there's a little movement in the pop culture to try to be a little bit more, a little broader in. Of course, it strikes me as sort of Hollywood's take on small town life more than anything realistic, because of course they make it all, gritty and kind of grimy, and she's kind of dragging her leg around. She's, got this weird accent, and I mean, I'm enjoying it, but I think people in small towns, not that I'm an expert, but I've been spending a little time in small town PA, and I think that on average people seem happier around here, and very house proud and healthy, and it's, I think that the HBO take on small town USA, is more like, kind of like the depressed big city liberal interpretation of small town.
Well, I'll tell you this: if you guys want an interesting movie, and I know that they have really given it, talked down about it, but I found it interesting, was Woman in the Mirror, which is on, I think it's Netflix. I found really interesting. The Guest, which is on Netflix. As far as movies, I'm looking forward to seeing The Conjuring, and there's one other movie that's out. It's supposed to be a really horror movie. I only like psychological horror movies. I don't like anything that's crazy animals and beasts and all that other stuff.
A Quiet Place Part 2.
Yes, A Quiet Place.
I want to see that as well.
I love the first one. I can't wait to see the second one.
I just recently, sorry to cut you off, Heather, but I just recently seen that Those Who Wish Me Dead movie with Angelina Jolie. I went to the theater and seen that the other day. And that was a really good movie. It only got 61% on Rotten Tomatoes, but the audience gave it 86%. I don't know what's wrong with these critics. A lot of times they're so I don't know, that really good movies they seem to rate low, and then bad movies they rate high a lot of times. So I don't really go with the critics' review. I always look at the audience reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. But Those Who Wish Me Dead with Angelina Jolie, that was a pretty good movie.
What was it about, Andrew? Was it a horror film or?
It's like a thriller. It's kind of like a 90s throwback where it's like this guy basically does something and there's bad people after him, and then he's got to hide his kid, and Angelina Jolie finds his kid, and the bad people are chasing Angelina Jolie and this guy's kid. It's a pretty good movie. It's just like a thriller. Kind of reminds me of like a 90s throwback.
I like her, but I find it difficult just trying to. I mean, the last movie, I liked her in the movie Salt. I thought I can watch that all the time. But then I heard she and Brad Pitt in the movie Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And I thought they were such a great couple. And then when they broke up, I'm like, is she just a psycho woman or what's going on?
So they made a movie together, I'll tell you guys. And it was no surprise they broke up over that, because this movie, I forget what it was called. The two of them were just screaming the hell out of each other for 2 hours, just like beating the holy it was like them fighting for 2 hours, screaming. It was something called Something by the Sea or something. And I'll tell you,
okay. Yep.
I don't think
heard
they
that.
should have made that movie because they got divorced like 2 weeks later, and I don't blame either one of them. I mean, it was like a complete.
Well, look at Tom Cruise. He and his wife, what was her name, Nicole Kidman, and he now has COVID. Does he have COVID?
Whoa.
I don't know, but I know that he was filming Mission Impossible 15 or whatever, and is now on hiatus because the crew of someone got COVID. So, yep.
Yeah, that movie with Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman was pretty wild. What was
Eyes
it?
Wide Open?
Yeah, the sex cult movie.
Eyes Wide
Oh
Shut.
my God.
Anyways,
Guys, thing is, I just wanted to tell you that Top Gun, apparently the sequel is out in theaters, so that's going to be a treat.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Well, folks, I don't have
I hope
anything
it's
else.
better than the new Coming to America. Thank you so much, Ray, for
I didn't even see
joining
the first
us
one.
tonight, and Heather as
It was
well.
great to be here. This was a fabulous thing. I just needed to vent a little bit.
Yeah,
And I've been kind of cooped up here and haven't written a whole lot in about 2 months. So, maybe I'll get motivated. I'm thinking about writing a little something about Joe Manchin. Don't be surprised.
And please share. Yes.
Something about his thumb in the dike. Okay. Something about it. Maybe it's going to help our cause. I know there's a lot of interest in Trump coming back in 2024. I said what I said. We'll see what happens. As he would always say, we'll see what happens.
Yep.
Right? That was his thing. So we'll see what happens.
And I'll just say this.
You all know I was a big Trump supporter for the last 4 something.
Well, I mean, I still am, and I'll say this: the media is going nuts because they keep saying that Maggie Haberman. Oh, he said that he's going to be back in office by August. I'm like, Maggie, please. Okay, who at CNN is telling you this? Who's giving you all these stories? And if he said it, he probably said it kiddingly, knowing that you're going to take it and run with it. And then she will appear on TV as if though it's gospel. Oh, yeah, no, he believes that. And a lot of his followers, because QAnon, they know more about QAnon than QAnon knows about QAnon. It's insane. It's like, guys, give it a break.
They probably write half of it.
Exactly. And they're probably members.
They like to scare themselves, is my new observation. They like to have something to be scared about. I'm not saying that there's nothing to any of their fears, but it's the neurosis. I mean, it's
they won't let it go. They will not let it go. They won't let Trump go.
It's white supremacy. I mean, it's all these things are real. I'm not saying they're complete fabrications or that there's absolutely zero to be afraid of. But
like you said, they like to scare themselves.
I think so.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and as far as Joe Manchin goes, I remember Sean Hannity used to bring him on all the time, and a lot of people would complain, but I always kind of like Joe Manchin myself. I think if you listen to him, he does seem like a common sense kind of guy and not a partisan hack like so many others in government do.
Well, look at
good for Joe Manchin.
Listen, this is the bottom line. The Senate is 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And with Kamala Harris, she has the vote. So Joe Manchin controls the whole thing.
Yeah.
You see, that's the bottom line. So, like I said, I think it's a Dino. Coin the new phrase. It'll be
do the poem and read it on here, Adino.
It sounds like that cinema from Arizona might be the same way. I don't see that.
Cinema,
Democrats don't like her either.
All it takes is one person. It's like the whole story of Atlas. He was holding up the world. That was the myth.
Yeah.
This is how these people think. This is why AOC is so powerful.
Yep.
She's holding up this progressive movement. She's like Atlas.
Yep.
Well, right now, Joe Manchin is holding up the whole deluge of a legislative nightmare to us conservatives.
Mm.
Now, the
Yep.
Supreme Court, I always felt like the Supreme Court must remain independent
Right.
because of the balance of power. And then all these threats that were going on last year with let's think about what we went through. Kavanaugh's, confirmation was probably the lowest our country has come
Mm.
in decades.
Hmm.
It was so bad. Spartacus, and we had it all. It was like a clown show, but it was nasty.
Yeah.
And then the last one, getting him through was huge. So Manchin is holding up the whole Congress right now, and that's good for us.
Right.
The longer we can hold off, maybe we could take the midterms, and then the pressure's off, sort of. I mean, think about it. They have the presidency, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. That's a trifecta. So what do we have to hold it off? Joe Manchin.
Yes.
They've also got the universities and the media, but that's sort of not officially branches of government.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But ultimately, the decision is made in the Senate to send something. If it's passed in the House, it doesn't get past the Senate. It's cooked. Joe. I mean, it's hard. Again, with 60 votes, like, to overturn, it's like, 60 votes is just not going to happen.
Right.
So that's our hope and our prayer. Rob has always been an optimist. He's always said he'd like to see someone like Oprah Winfrey or Barack Obama step up to the plate and say enough is enough, and start to look at some of the positive progress that's been made, particularly in the Black community, over several decades, of successful people. And, we conservatives, we don't look at somebody based on color, race, or gender. We really don't. I mean, we're accused that we do. This is the conspiracy theory that conservatives are racists, right? And this is a myth. This is not the truth. This is what they'd like to portray as the truth.
Right.
That's the danger, in my opinion. That's the real danger, that there's this painting conservatives and white people as racists, and this is how they hope to raise money, which gets to elections. And I feel bad for Mike Lindell. This poor guy has made a fortune in pillows.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a Midwest guy, Minnesota, but he is looked at as an absolute nut job.
Yeah.
What
for
did he?
Even suggesting
He just said he
that
liked Trump.
Just being associated with Trump is all that it takes. You could look at Flynn. You could look at anybody. We talked about it earlier tonight, and really what it comes down to is not one Democrat has faced accountability. Not one. And
Right.
I include like Fauci in that.
No,
right?
you're right. You're spot on.
Just nobody has paid the price except this guy Kleinsmith, and that was a joke.
Right.
That was a total joke.
And where's John Durham? Who knows?
We had hope. We thought that, even going back to Hillary Clinton's email in the server in her closet, now they laugh at us.
Well, because just talking about that, Ray, we were willing to set that aside and move forward and say, okay, fine. Remember what Trump said during the debates? He said, I'm going to have someone to look into your situation. After he became president, he was interviewed, I think, by someone on CBS, and he said, I don't want to do anything to Hillary Clinton and her husband.
Mm-hmm.
they're good, move forward. They did not give him the same courtesy. They did
No.
not give him the same respect. They went after him tooth and nail, and they're still doing it. And I saw a piece on Mark Levin tonight about Cy Vance, the attorney general, well, not the attorney general, but the district attorney, prosecuting attorney in New York, and
Right.
Letitia James, the attorney general. They are both corrupt. They're extremely corrupt. And when you look at their records and some of the things that they had done, first of all, Letitia should step aside because she campaigned on going against the president. She campaigned and said that's still legitimate. And if anyone says that about Joe Biden, you are silenced immediately on social media. And the news will attack you. They will make it difficult for you to live, difficult for you to make a living if you rely on social media for your living. That is wrong. You look like the same thing. He has gone after people. He even went after, I think, his daughter and his son's, or his daughter's son, and his daughter's husband, his son-in-law, in a very ruthless way. And you're going to tell me that these people are objective? No, they're not. That is a problem with our criminal justice system. We see people who are doing things that they shouldn't be doing, and no one calls it out. We just roll over. You look at all the individuals that were prosecuted in Trump, Roger Stone. Okay, that should have never happened. They should not have came early in the morning, raiding. All they had to do was call his attorney and say, we want him to come in. Why didn't they do it? Rudy Giuliani, the exact same thing. And the media knows about it. They do these things to make it, to create the perception that something wrong has happened. If Letitia James has something on President Trump, then she should speak up and she should say, we are going to charge him with this, as opposed to saying, we're going to work with the district attorney in New York and we're going to try to see what we can find out. You're fishing for something. You're looking for something, and we're going to take this to the grand jury. Okay, what are the charges? If you have legitimate, just go ahead and charge him. But they're waiting because they want to see if he will say that he's going to run again. This should not be happening in the United States of America. And our media is complicit because they see this as wrong and they're pretending as if though it is right. And you have viewers that are out there that are so unaware that this is wrong that they're assuming, well, maybe this might be right. Maybe Trump has done something. Well, they said that about Russia collusion. Again, folks, I don't want to have to just like repeat this, but I just get angry every time I see how we're being duped. Most people are being duped because they're not asking the question, and the media is not being forthcoming, and they control the news cycle. That is the reason why they don't want Trump out there. That is the reason why big tech is silencing our voices. This should not be happening. Someone should have already filed suit against big tech and say, you can't do this. Some conservative governors should be saying in their state, we're going to pass a law that will allow people to sue you. That's what should be happening. If Ron DeSantis can do it, the others should be doing it because they will not govern themselves fairly.
Well, what Ron DeSantis, he had an interesting spin on it. If I'm not mistaken, it was that it was like election fraud, an angle that because they were silencing everybody, it's really an election fraud issue, if that makes sense. So it's a legal position that could be solid. It's not saying, well, you don't like what I said and there's terms of service that you violated. That's different. But to come at them from the angle that, you're taking sides in a political election, that can be fraud.
Yeah.
You've disenfranchised voters in states, so that's why they don't like DeSantis.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't like Ron DeSantis. I don't know why. I mean,
they don't like the truth. They don't like the truth.
Well, I think they don't like the truth, and that he was a Trump supporter.
Yeah.
Anybody associated with Trump, including us.
Yeah.
He's
his state,
successful.
think of all the
He's
elderly in Florida. I mean, if he had done what Cuomo did, can you imagine? I mean, the killing fields that would have been down there.
oh yeah.
You know, it's. I mean, he obviously managed things much better. I mean, Cuomo's boneheaded thing, which it upsets me to even talk about. It was
And he's
just
not being held accountable.
it's honestly, I don't write about it much because I was writing about it initially, and I just long before really anybody was asking questions, I just it's so upsetting, it's so galling, but that's no excuse not to dig into it. And I mean, I keep thinking, why
Have,
is nobody asking about the federal resources that were wasted? All the ship and the Javits Center all went unused. That's an angle that seems to have just kind of gone away. I mean, he's just got all his enablers, and he's just getting away with it all.
have you been censored in any way, Heather?
Other than the fact that being, on with you guys, and we all got sort of, as a group, the show isn't on Twitter anymore. That's about it. I mean, frankly, I'm kind of not sure why I haven't, but I'm, not really. I'm still on Twitter.
Well, I lost. I was deplatformed on Twitter, and I had like 35,000 followers.
Mm-hmm.
And I was posting poems. I was posting my book. My book was selling on a regular basis. Now it's like a ghost town.
It ruined it ruined our website as well. We were getting thousands of views a day, and then once we got suspended from Twitter, we've got no way to advertise articles or anything.
And that was the intent. That was the intent of Twitter.
It just took us right out.
We should be able to sue Twitter. I don't care about this private company BS. It's all a bunch of BS. We should be able to sue them.
It's Section 230 that has to be attacked. They've been treated. They've been treated. I don't know, but they should be treated like a utility.
Absolutely.
Well, are you guys on Parler and Substack?
I am. I'm on Parler,
Cloud Hub,
Telegram, Gab. I don't know what to do. Parler, it seems like only big accounts.
Yeah, they're all trying to find their way. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm surprised because Dan Bongino has got a great thing going with his show and this and that, and I don't know whether he has any interest in Parler anymore.
Right. Well, see, that's the thing, as I was saying earlier on, they have got to recognize they can't just focus on, okay, big accounts, and if you're going to pay us to do this, I understand it takes money, but in order to build it up, you've got to be able to reach out to those small individuals. They're the ones that will help you build up the platform, because they will invite other people to come on. But when you have it concentrated in the hands of a few, it's going to stay that way, and you won't get others come on and help you grow it. I mean, I'm on Parler, Gab, Clout, MeWe, but then I think you said, Ray, an echo chamber, and I got tired. I'm like, I'm kicking my butt trying to retweet what other people are saying or and whatnot, but it's getting no traction.
No traction,
and it just gets tiresome.
And I notice that there's no original content.
Mm-hmm.
It's all somebody repeating what somebody else did already. Where what we do, Rob, Andrew, myself, Heather's journalist, I write poetry. When I put something up, it's mine. It's my content. But that's where it's broken down. Now if you look at Parler, it's all just repetition of, what Charlie Kirk said or what some major account said, and then they'll have a photograph, and then it has like thousands of replies, and I could put up a poem like that I read today, like let's say whites need not apply, and maybe two people will see it. So it's there will be a time then this will all rectify. I just don't know when.
I can't wait to that time. It can't happen soon enough.
But I am going to write another book. I have 6.
Good.
I'm writing another book. It's going to be a little lighter. It'll be a little lighter on the poetry, but heavier on the essays. I've written a lot of essays over the years.
Right.
And so I'm going to publish a book of essays and poetry. It's going to be called Rhymes and Reasons.
I like that.
So, yeah, it'll keep me going.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you guys a lot coming on your show and inviting me back periodically. I'm looking forward to the Father's Day show coming up 2 weeks from today, right?
Yes.
And I don't know whose father is still around. Mine isn't, but I have
Mine
a few
isn't.
poems.
But we could just talk about the graciousness of the fathers.
Yeah, but I'm looking forward to that in a few weeks, and I'll probably listen into that important show you mentioned tomorrow on
Great.
your platform. And Heather, it's great to see you, and
Great to see you,
Andrew, and you guys are like family, really. So, and your mom was really great from the Mother's Day show.
Oh, thank
she's
you.
really she's something else.
Thank you, Ray.
Yeah, and I got a good one too, but your mom is really brilliant lady.
Yes.
You know that.
She's a treasure. It's true.
Yeah.
And thanks for, providing us a great opportunity, Rob and Andrew.
So I'm going to jump if it's okay.
Yes, we're going to close out. Andrew's going to close us out. And we
Go
will
ahead, Andrew.
see you guys next time.
Man, at this point, should we even stop? I mean, we're 2 hours in here. But yeah, anyways, thanks everyone who tuned in tonight and still listening. And in the chat room, we appreciate you guys participating in the show tonight. And thank you so much. Hopefully we will be back sometime here in the next couple weeks. I know we plan on doing a live show on Father's Day. Also check out Rob and I Monday through Friday on iHeartRadio at 9 Eastern time. Just look at the channel America Out Loud, and it'll be After Dark with Rob and Andrew tomorrow night. We've got Robert, James, Lewis, and then Tuesday night we've got Colonel Julie Hall. So a couple military guests to start off the week on over at our show. So, and also of course check out Ray's book, Ray Poetry. You can find it on Google, I believe. If you just type in Ray Poetry, they can get your book will come up, Ray.
Yeah,
there it is right there.
Amazon right there, or you can go to rayraypoetryworld.com.
Okay.
And you can see all my books. You can order. They're actually discounted a lot through my website.
Yeah.
I still keep some inventory because nobody's buying them, so
they're really
sitting
great.
there. I could give them away.
Yeah, they're really great, high quality books. Hardback, paperback, whatever you want. Ray will sign it for you and get it sent over to you. I cannot recommend it enough. Great
Thank
books. You. And and we will keep in touch with Heather and whatever she posts next and her articles. We look forward to talking to her about that. Thank you so much, everyone. We will see you guys soon.
Good night.
God bless.